There's a reason some men walk into rooms and read everyone like an open book. Their mind isn't cluttered. It's sharp, focused, quiet on the surface but calculating underneath. This clarity doesn't come from books or caffeine. It comes from discipline. Semen retention sharpens the mind by starving the brain of the short-term dopamine chaos it's been drowning in. When a man stops numbing himself with easy highs, the brain begins to rewire. Attention span stretches, memory improves. Emotional distractions lose their grip. You're no longer pulled by every impulse. You begin to see patterns others miss. That's not talent. That's biology working the way it was always meant to. Intelligence is often mistaken for knowing facts. But real intelligence, the kind that makes people pause when you speak, is about processing speed, pattern recognition, and emotional regulation. All of these are compromised when dopamine is misused. Semen retention brings balance back to your neurochemistry. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of planning, reasoning, and restraint, gets stronger. You stop reacting and start responding. Thoughts become layered. Speech becomes intentional. You stop looking for the right answer and start asking the right questions. That shift is rare. And in a distracted world, rare minds dominate. Not because they're louder, but because they're clear. Section 1, Prolactin Fog. Most people think intelligence is about knowing more. But real intelligence begins when the fog lifts. The kind that most men don't even realize they're living under. Every time you release, your brain floods with prolactin. This hormone is meant to induce rest and recovery, but in excess it becomes a mental cage. Over time, high prolactin dampens motivation, slows your thinking, and dulls your edge. You start to misplace ideas, forget names mid-conversation, hesitate when certainty is needed. That mental drag isn't normal, it's chemical overload. And if it goes unchecked, your potential gets buried under the weight of it. Semen retention interrupts that loop. It gives your mind a chance to reset its chemical rhythm. With lower prolactin, your baseline energy rises, but more importantly, your attention sharpens. You stop zoning out mid-thought. You begin to track ideas from start to finish. That fleeting clarity you once felt in rare moments, it becomes more consistent. Retention trains your nervous system to stay with one idea longer, push through the urge to jump to something else, and actually complete cognitive tasks. That's how strategic thinking is built, not through effort, but through alignment. And when prolactin drops, dopamine finally gets room to breathe. You're no longer addicted to jumping between tabs, tasks, or distractions. Your mind learns to stay still, on purpose. That stability is where insight happens. The smartest men aren't necessarily the most educated. They're the ones who can focus, think without interruption, and finish what they start. Retention doesn't give you more intelligence. It removes the sludge that was masking the intelligence you already had. Section 2, Fluid Intelligence. There's a kind of intelligence that doesn't show up on tests, but it shows up in every move you make. It's the ability to see through noise, to spot what's really going on before anyone says a word. This is fluid intelligence, and it depends on how well your brain's prefrontal and parietal lobes communicate. When those circuits are clogged with overstimulation, especially from compulsive habits, your logic gets buried under impulse. But with semen retention, those same neural pathways begin to clear. Thought becomes lighter, sharper, faster. You no longer just process what's happening. You track it, forecast it, and people around you notice, even if they can't explain it. Over time, this shift changes how you interpret the world. You begin catching patterns in conversations others miss. You notice microsignals, tone, timing, subtle contradictions. When someone lies, you don't just sense it. You understand why. Your brain stops accepting surface-level narratives and starts decoding the mechanics underneath them. This isn't about being skeptical or cold. It's about precision. You stop responding emotionally and start choosing your response like a chess move. Every conversation becomes a map. Every situation a probability equation. That's not cold thinking. That's evolved thinking. And once this clarity sets in, something bigger happens. You become resistant, not just to manipulation, but to distraction, confusion, and false urgency. While others move reactively, you move deliberately. While they guess, you calculate. Semen retention helps build this edge, not by magic, but by upgrading the very hardware your thoughts run on. When your brain starts working with you instead of against you, intelligence isn't just a trait. It becomes your nature. Section 3, mental noise. Most men don't realize how much mental energy they're leaking, not in dramatic bursts, but in quiet, constant drips. Thoughts that orbit around desire, replayed scenes, passive scanning for novelty. This noise chews through their focus before they've even opened their laptop. It's not harmless. It fragments the mind, dulls attention, and turns long-term goals into blurry background clutter. But semen retention starts cleaning that noise. Not all at once, but steadily. The more you resist the urge to chase cheap highs, the more power you recover. It's like muting 1,000 whispers in your head and finally hearing one clear idea for the first time. Once that signal sharpens, your habits shift. The same man who once compulsively scrolled now craves silence, strategies, structure. You'll feel your brain tugging toward books instead of screens, frameworks instead of fantasies. The desire to build, something lasting, something complex, starts overtaking the itch to consume. And this change isn't forced. It happens because your biology no longer rewards chaos. It begins prioritizing creation over stimulation. With every day of retention, your mental appetite reorients toward growth. And the results compound, not just in knowledge, but in how deeply you can think without burning out. Because intelligence has never been about trivia. It's not about having the right answer. It's about adapting faster than the problem. And adaptation requires clarity. Without mental clutter, without fragmented focus, that's where retention rewires the game. You're no longer handing your mind over to impulses. You're directing it like a weapon. That shift, it's the difference between potential and power. And it begins the moment your attention returns to you.